People don't come to us because of what we can do for them. They come to us because how well we understood them. Whether you're in PT or cryo, you're an athletic trainer, whatever it is that they're not here for your clinical skill set. They're here for a solution, and that solution is supposed to help them get to a better version of themselves. I just want to talk about my first experience with perception of value when it comes to pricing. So when I moved here, my parents worked at a Thai restaurant, and when we didn't have much, right? We came up from nothing. We all live in a 1-bedroom apartment where we all just kind of split, pick a corner, and that's our bedroom. So we were kind of like scraping by just to make ends meet. And as part of the strategy, my mom would take all the cans, right? The soda cans, all the bottles that the restaurant would throw out, and then she would collect those. And then together on the weekend, we would go to ShopRite or any grocery store to go grocery shopping. But when we do that, we would then take those cans and put it in those machines to get 5 cents, right? So we would do that pretty much as a family, and we would spend pretty much an hour just putting cans in just to get some money. And in the beginning, when I was younger, clearly, I'm just okay, there's something that we're going to do to make money. But as I gotten older, it's become a task that's extremely embarrassing. You're just kind of praying to God that you don't run into any of your high school classmate or middle school classmate, that they don't see you putting the cans in, because it's super embarrassing, and there's nothing indicating that you're not making ends meet and that you're poor because you're putting the cans in. But as I'm older now, I experience, and then as I have more life experience, I appreciate those moments so much even more, because it gave me a really clear perspective of value, because value is extremely subjective, right? Because if I hold a can in my hand, to me, the 13-year-old version of myself, I would see 5 cents on that can, right? But to me now, I would just see a regular can, right? Because I didn't need that 5 cents. I don't need that 5 cents anymore. But in the past, I really needed that 5 cents. My family needed as many 5 cents as possible to make sure we accumulate as much money so that we can pay rent and all of that stuff. With that concept, I apply it to okay, well, based on what we do in the healthcare industry, right? The biggest thing in the big corporation setting is that they treat human being just like another body. They don't appreciate what a human body could do, and therefore they just look at patient as just a dollar sign, right? That's their perspective. So with my perspective, that if someone's come in to see us here, I look at them what they're capable of rather than not what they cannot do, right? How do we make sure that the patient themselves see value in themselves, right? So how do we bring forth that value within themselves? How do I structure an experience that when the patient come in, they're you know what? I am still valuable. I need to take care of myself. I'm capable of doing just more than what I'm doing now, right? So that's another thing to change the narrative for the patient. But as a business owner standpoint, people pay based on what they expect to get. Again, if I look at the can as 5 cents, that's normal for the 13-year-old version of me, but other people will look at it as just a can. So now what I need to do is how do I just make a thing, which is the can, become more valuable, right? So situation matters a lot. For example, if someone is extremely rich, but they lost nothing overnight, now that can become something to them, right? Because there's value into that. So when it comes to pricing strategy, I always say, okay, if someone come in and you want to charge a certain amount, you need to deliver value much greater than what you're charging. You want them to feel as soon as they walk out of the door, they're getting 2 or 3 times as much as what you're charging, right? And you do it by some sort of strategy where you do a survey, ask them what is it really that important to them, and then you just keep delivering on that. The other day, I actually have to cover the desk because we had overlaps in coverage, and I actually had to take my first inquiry call in a while. And this gentleman called, and the first thing he says hey, I just Google searched you. You're the closest to my house. I want to know how much it costs to come here. And I say, great. Hey, before we get into that, do you mind if I ask you a couple questions to get to know each other? He's like, oh yeah, of course. And then I start asking him hey, what are you dealing with? He's like, oh, I'm dealing with some knee pain. I say, okay, how long have you been dealing with it for? And what is it stopping you from doing? And then he's telling me it's stopping him from playing basketball. And I say, okay, well, tell me a little bit more about basketball. How long have you been doing that for? And how important is that to you? He's like, yeah, I used to play all the time with my friend. We kind of lost touch. And because of that, every time I try to go back, my pain would come back. Then I can't go to the gym as much anymore. I'm not as active. I gain weight. And then after that, I sum it up. So not only if this knee pain caused you to lose friend in your circle because you can't play basketball with them. It's also make you less active, and therefore now you gain weight. And he's like, yeah, that's correct. I was like, okay, well, how much does that mean to you? Like, if I tell you, like, hey, listen, there's a magic wand. If I can solve this problem for you today, like, will you put a price on that? He's like, I would actually value a lot. I was like, well, you're in the right place. This is what we do, right? I'm not saying I have a magic wand, but we do have system, clinical skill that can get you to the outcome that you want, because this is the environment that we created for someone like you who wants to be active, right? So from there, that conversation becomes less about what we charge, but what are we able to do to help that person on the phone, and how do we help them make a good decision based on the value that we have created for them, right? So now what I did was I turned that can into something more than just a can. Now he see the value of the can, right? Now he knows, I was like, oh no, that's just not a can. That's just actually worth 5 cents, right? So it's the same thing that I always coming back to, like when before I raise any prices, I always ask myself, how much value can I provide before I raise prices? And how much is it worth to the other person, right? And the one thing I read this morning was, people don't come to us because of what we can do for them. They come to us because how well we understood them. And that's the key, like to help someone, to serve someone, whether you're in PT or you're a chiro, you're an athletic trainer, whatever it is that you need to understand the person in front of you. They're not here for your clinical skill set. They're here for a solution, and that solution is supposed to help them get to a better version of themselves, right? You're not here to serve yourself, you're here to serve them. And with that being said, keep that in mind next time you're looking to raise prices, you're looking to enhance your experience, especially in your clinic. That is what's really important. Patient wants to feel understood, they want to feel significant, and they want to be heard at all times. So I hope you guys enjoyed that one, and then I'll talk to you on the next episode.